Hey everybody, coming with a Mirage build today. This is a really, I think, a pretty cool, interesting build. Really focused on conditions with like a condition overload melee, a lot of enemy debuffing, relying on shield gating to survive. I've subsumed pillage with this build, um, and as you can see, it's just completely demolishing enemies. So I'm using a combination of the two augments, so Explosive Legerdemain, and Pillage to strip enemies of a ton of armor. And it works pretty well. This build solved a lot of the issues I was having with Mirage before. So when I was testing Mirage out, even with Helminth abilities, I was testing quite a few things, and it always seemed, you know, she just seemed a little squishy once you got past a certain point. Once I got to like an hour, 2 hours, I just felt like I was dying randomly. You know, Mirage damage is never a problem, right? Like the point of this build really isn't the damage. You can go a build with really high strength and really high duration, and you're gonna kill stuff. Like Mirage has always done a ton of damage. She will always do a ton of damage. She's like Banshee. Um, the point of this build is that this build will let you survive to do that damage, right? And that was my goal. I feel like a lot of people just really focus on more damage, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. Most of the time, I don't have issues doing damage in Warframe. I have issues with, surviving on squishy frames that can do a ton of damage. But shield gating has provided some really good ways of letting squishy frames survive. And so you can see here, like this isn't super long, this is only 10 minutes into a steel path, but it is a steel path, and I have like zero pressure from enemies, right? Absolutely no pressure from enemies. I'm also just shredding through them like they're, level 1. So yeah, I turned around to hit that heavy gunner, but he was already dead. So the life support's running a little low. It seems to be like somewhat of a bug on this tile set. I don't know exactly what's going on, but ever since like last patch or maybe the one before, like all this life support is spawning like in the water. Where I can't really get to it without going into Sharkwing, and I don't really like Sharkwing. So yeah, you do kind of have to get some life support stuff. Ophelia is a pretty nice map to do farms, like Steel Essence farms and stuff. So I did like a Steel Essence farm with this build for a couple of hours last night. I think it was like 2 hours, and the shield gating just really helps Mirage stay alive. So it is melee focused build. There's nothing. You can totally use ranged weapons with this as well. Yeah, I've got a Zuge Prime, so there's nothing stopping you from doing that. Mirage will also kill stuff with that with the ranged weapons as well. Like I mentioned, damage not an issue for Mirage. Never has been, never will be. Surviving, sometimes an issue. So I'm gonna hop out of here, go into this my orbiter, show you guys the build, kind of demonstrate what I added to Mirage to make her what I think better for more difficult content at least. So let me get out of there. So hopefully that gave you a good idea of kind of the overall flow of the build. I happened to be using melee there, honestly, mostly because I did pick up the new Tenogen polearm skin, and because that thing looks really nice. I think it looks so cool. I don't have a Riven for Legion. This was a Rivenless build that I showed you. So yeah, I was using one of the new mods from Deimos. So yeah, just pure condition overload with a lot of conditions. No crit or anything. So if you don't like running Naramon, this might be a good option. I didn't even use these. I showed off Zuge, but that this isn't even a super awesome weapon, so that was able to tear through enemies. I will say in some of my builds, I use the Death Cube pretty often. I think for this variant of this build, running the Death Cube with the Cimmerius mod to drop energy orbs is really, really good. I've said it in other videos, I would really advise getting a Hellstrom. This thing is like, I love this weapon. It's super great. I played with, like, of course you can run a Smita Kavat. I don't like always having, feeling like I have to run a Smita. So it's nice to be able to use other companions as well. And because of all the CC that this build does, your companion doesn't really die or really take much damage. So that's really nice. So I'm running Zenuric for energy, Elysian Condition Overload build, and you can honestly put almost any melee or ranged weapon. I mean, honestly, you can kind of just put whatever you want in here. So this is where there are variants on what you could do with this build. So first of all, I've put a couple Forma on Mirage. I wanted to put Prime Surefooted in, so you don't need to run Prime Surefooted. This is for some, with this build, you do enough CC that you probably won't get CC'd yourself. However, I really like the mod, so I kind of put it on everything. I would probably put Cunning Drift here for a little extra range, bump this up to 190%. So what I did here was running Blind Rage, and so my efficiency was very low. However, I have a rank 5 Arcane Energize, so I can get by with just Energize and Zenuric, so I can run Blind Rage. If you don't have those, I would definitely take out Blind Rage for Transient Fortitude, and then probably drop Primed Flow, since you don't really need it much anymore, and then put Intensify. So bumps your strength a little back up. So you do suffer, you have a little less duration. These buffs are around 30 seconds instead of 40 seconds. Your strength is a tad bit lower. Another thing you can do, so in the long run, you can probably add an Aura Forma here to, get the extra capacity. So I haven't done that quite yet. I formed Mirage a couple times, but probably needs another 2 to 3 Forma. Another thing I really don't like is, for some reason, a lot of people, when they show builds, they don't show how many Forma it took to get to that build, which I don't know. I just feel like that's a little disingenuous. Like, fact of the matter is, you can make Warframes insanely powerful, but it does take a lot of investment. It takes a lot of Forma. It takes things like Arcanes to get to that really crazy, power. So this is like, kind of a lower Forma investment. I just added a 1 Matter Eye and 1 Vazarin to my Exilus. So Mirage just comes with 2 Vazarin polarities, so this is kind of a, less Forma build. You don't even have to run this if you don't want to. So if you don't want to run an Exilus, you could probably just get away with 1 Forma. I would highly recommend running Brief Respite though, because one of the issues I was having using Pillage is that, yes, Pillage does refresh your shields when it comes back to you. The problem is, if your shields are already low when you cast Pillage, you can end up just dying before your shields refresh. So that's why I added Brief Respite and a couple Augur mods. One thing I like to do is on my secondary, something like this. So a lot of times I'll throw a secondary on that has Augur Pact, or that has, you can even throw on Augur Seeker as well. So almost like a secondary stat stick to improve your set bonus. And so between the Augur mods and Brief Respite, you're getting a ton of shields back whenever you cast an ability. And so, especially with the Blind Rage variant of this, where your abilities are costing 70 energy, the ones that you're spamming at least, you're getting a ton of shields back when you use this. So, when you use an ability. And that just, like, first of all, that plays extremely well with Arcane Aegis, because Arcane Aegis requires you to take damage to your shields. And so you're constantly generating shields from using abilities, which causes your Aegis to constantly trigger. And so, as long as your shields are up, you're not going to die unless it's toxin damage. Another amazing thing about Pillage is that it removes status effects. And that is a really underrated thing about this ability. Because if you get a heat proc on you, like 2 hours into a Steel Path run, if you're a squishy frame, that thing is going to chunk your health or your shields. Like, slash procs, heat procs. It also lets you, potentially survive a toxin proc. Um, so I think Pillage is a very solid Helminth option, especially for squishy frames. Mirage doesn't have any way to remove armor naturally, so another nice thing about this is that you get a pretty good armor strip. A common misconception about Pillage is that you don't really want to spam Pillage too much because Pillage removes a percentage of the current armor of your enemies. So let's say this is at 50%, just for an argument. If you use it once, you're going to take them to 50% armor, then 25, then 12.5. So you're getting kind of diminishing returns on casting Pillage. That, in conjunction with how armor scales now, you don't really need to spam Pillage. Usually just casting this one time strips enemies enough. And even with the kind of easier to reuse build, it's still stripping almost 50%. So that's usually enough to be able to kill enemies much easier. And as you saw, a lot of times that lets enemies die just from your sleight of hand or your Explosive Legerdemain mines. So why Explosive Legerdemain is so nice, especially when you combine it with Condition Overload, is it's putting all these status effects on your enemies. You saw my Sentinel is applying multiple other status effects. So one of the weaknesses of just using Condition Overload is that you lack upfront damage. So a lot of times people combine Condition Overload with Crit, because Crit is giving you that upfront increase to your base damage, and then Condition Overload is giving you that scaling. But unless you're using a new core or something, you need some way to apply conditions, or else Condition Overload loses its value, and at that point you might as well be using Prime Pressure Point. Something like Legion, which has really high base status, and you're going to be applying a lot of status effects, you can get away with using Explosive Legerdemain, and you don't need to use Weeping Wounds or something like that. Another option is you can honestly just take something like another thing I was messing around with. Whoopsies. Another thing I was messing around with was a Bala Dagger. And so the Bala Dagger has complete garbage base status, right? But I was using Condition Overload because I was getting all these status effects from Explosive Legerdemain and from my Sentinel. And so this thing, this thing hits like an absolute freight train. And so this dagger, my Riven kind of adds minimal actual damage, but I probably need to re-roll this a little bit. But yeah, so this thing, I would really advise making a Bala Dagger if you haven't. It's really, really nice. I went with the full crit variant, Varjeet, 2 Jai, Paye, and Bala. Really nice for heavy attacks. It has 4 slash procs on heavy attacks, stuff like that. So the Legion build, I think I showed this. You can use whatever stance you want. Honestly, as long as you're using a Condition Overload based build, doesn't really matter. So if you don't have Aegis, this build will probably be a little worse. However, it's definitely still playable. As long as you're using these shield regen mods. Also, another thing is there's a couple shield regen mods for your Sentinel, like Shield Charger and Guardian. Those are really great. So, I'm going to just go back to the variant I was playing earlier. Throw Prime Full back on here. So yeah, like I said, I'll probably be formatting this off. And another thing is you could try to fit in, some more strength. So if I didn't have this here, I could potentially also run Transient Fortitude. However, I didn't really have, I didn't format it yet. So this is definitely a flex slot. Rolling Guard is super nice on squishy frames. So yeah, I really like Mirage's 2 augment. You can also go like a really high range build and nuke ESO with this. It's actually like quite effective. And Pillage is pretty good there as well because you're stripping enemy armor, and that's kind of the biggest thing that cuts your damage. So, you know, I found that Mirage with this build, I was actually using all my abilities. Didn't have really any trouble surviving, any trouble killing enemies. And that's usually, kind of good enough for me. I really like builds where you're actively using all your abilities and don't really have too much trouble surviving. So this felt really good. Felt quite nice on Steel Path. So hopefully I gave some alternatives, if you don't have Aegis or Energize. Of course, any like damage arcane is going to work here. If for some reason you have Barrier and you don't have Aegis, you can use Barrier, stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully you try it out. I gotta admit, that new polearm skin is really, really nice. But Mirage is a awesome frame, very, very cool, very strong, has really cool augments. So I found this build to be very fun. So if you want to give it a shot, that'd be awesome. Let me know how it goes. Thanks, everybody.